of a college student or graduate student, the compensation system was insufficient.
어쨌든 이 연구실 안전법이 연구자 보호라는 취지에 맞춰 생긴
5 levels. Of these, Grade 4 refers to a condition in which
기사 봤어? 에이드 실험실에서 사고가 크게 났어.
이 연구실은 융복합 연구활동을 활발하게 하고 있다고 기사에도 소개되었는데 여기도 안전하지 않네요.
그렇지 않아도 요즘 예측하기 힘든 유해 인자가 많아서 연구실 안전 말이 많던데.
그래서 연구실 안전법도 계속 개정하고 있는 거 아니에요?
맞아. 벌써 11차까지 개정이 되었다고 했어.
벌써 그렇게나 많이 되었어? 이번 법 개정은 왜 하는 거래?
선배, 왜 하긴요? 워낙 연구 환경들이 많이 변하니까 그에 맞게 개정이 필요한 거죠. 관심 좀 가지셔야 하는 거 아니에요?
아, 쏘리. 내가 생각을 못했네. 그렇다면 이번에 연구실 안전법이 어떻게 바뀌었는지 제대로 알아봐야겠네.
그러려면 기존의 연구실 안전법이 어떻게 제정되고 변화되었는지를 먼저 알아봐야 비교를 하지.
Before the enactment of the Laboratory Safety Act, in the event of an ongoing major disaster and an accident in the laboratory of a college student or graduate student, the compensation system was insufficient. At the end of May 2004, the General Student Association of the Korea Graduate School of Science and Technology called for the enactment of a law on the safety of laboratories. Proceeding with the Lab Safety Act Members' Initiative, the Laboratory Safety Act was enacted in 2015 and came into effect in April 2016. Laboratory safety laws in state-led laboratory safety management saw a paradigm shift toward institutional autonomous safety management. Accordingly, the Laboratory Safety Act has been gradually revised. A brief look at the recent major revisions to the law in October 2018. The 10th Amendment to the Laboratory Safety Act was made, with the main content stipulating the designation of a representative as a Laboratory Safety Environment Manager. Then, on June 9, 2020, the 11th Amendment to the law was made, including the Laboratory Safety Information Publication System, compliance with Laboratory Installation Operating Standards, the systemization of agency management, and the establishment of a Laboratory Safety Manager.
연구실 안전법이 신설되기 전에 이렇게 사고들이 있었는지 몰랐어.
우리 연구활동 종사자 선배님들의 법안 제정 촉구가 없었더라면 우리에게 연구실 안전법은 없었을 거예요.
맞아. 선배님들. 어쨌든 이 연구실 안전법이 연구자 보호라는 취지에 맞추어 생긴 만큼 우리가 잘 준수해야 할 것 같아.
그럼 연구실 안전법에 대해서 좀 더 세부적으로 알아보러 고고!
The purpose of the Laboratory Safety Act is to ensure the safety of science and technology laboratories installed in universities and research institutes, and make sure there is appropriate compensation for damages caused by accidents. It aims to revitalize R&D activities by protecting the health and life of research workers and creating a safe research environment. It is a laboratory established by universities and research institutes to carry out R&D activities. The scope of law depends on the type and size of the lab. If there are less than 10 research workers, all of the law is excluded, and if other law is applied, some of the application is excluded. The Laboratory Director. According to Article 9 of the Laboratory Safety Act, the Laboratory Director is designated and operated by the head of the research department. Each laboratory must designate a Laboratory Director as prescribed by Presidential Decree. Eligibility requirements. A laboratory director must be a person who is a research director or an assistant professor or upper at a university or research institution. A person who directly supervises the research and development activities of the laboratory. The duties of a laboratory director must be fulfilled by a person with authority and responsibility for the use and safety of the laboratory. The following is the responsibility of the head of the laboratory. The first responsibility is for the education and safety of R&D activities in the laboratory. Second, a lab safety manager is designated to efficiently perform safety management tasks in the laboratory. Third, the preliminary hazard factor risk analysis is carried out as prescribed by presidential decree and reported to the head of the research department. Lastly, as revised in 2020, there is protective equipment suitable for research activities and guidance for wearing the equipment. I'm sure you're curious about this next part. Regarding the reporting of an appointment of a laboratory director, there is a duty to designate a laboratory director, but there is no obligation to report to the Ministry of Science, Information, Communication, and Technology. In addition, upon designation of the laboratory director, internal approval of the head of the research department is obtained, and changes must be managed as they are through change procedures. Next, whether or not one lab director should be assigned to one lab. First of all, it is possible for one laboratory director to manage and operate more than one laboratory. The director must be directly involved in the research project of the laboratory and must be within the scope of laboratory safety work and responsibility. If the laboratory director is not designated, a fine of up to 5 million won will be imposed. Pre-hazard risk analysis system guidelines for conducting laboratory pre-hazard risk analysis. Purpose: the laboratory director discovers the risk factors of harmful factors in the laboratory and establishes measures to prevent accidents. The implementation target is the laboratory subject to precise safety diagnosis, hazardous chemicals under the Chemical Control Act, harmful factors under the Occupational Safety and Health Act, and toxic gases in accordance with the High Pressure Gas Safety Management Act. Prior to conducting research and development activities for laboratories, it is necessary to conduct a preliminary analysis of harmful factors. The timing of the implementation can be conducted prior to the start of R&D activities, in the event of major changes, or when the laboratory director deems it necessary. The exclusion clause states that according to the application of risk assessment of the Occupational Safety and Health Act, a laboratory that has conducted risk assessment for each R&D activity is recognized as having conducted a preliminary hazard analysis. The designation of the Laboratory Safety Environment Manager. In accordance with Article 10 of the Laboratory Safety Act, assisting the head of research department, a laboratory safety and environment manager must be designated to advise and guide research activities such as the laboratory director. Qualification and designation standards are in accordance with the Laboratory Safety Act. For those who meet certain qualification criteria, one or more laboratory safety managers must be designated if there are less than 1,000 research workers, 2 or more if there are more than 1,000 or more and less than 3,000, and 3 or more if there are 3,000 or more. After designating, increasing the number, or changing the laboratory safety environment manager, within 14 days, the designation should be reported to the National Research Safety Information System. In this regard, if you look at the Safety and Environment Manager training cycle and times, new education must be completed for at least 18 hours within 6 months after designation. For refresher training, 12 hours or 18 hours within 6 months before and after every 2 years after completing the new training. Regarding the exclusion clause, in accordance with Article 17 of the Industrial Safety and Health Act, when designated as a safety manager or research institutes, company-affiliated, and R&D departments with 10 or more regular workers and less than 50 employees, the designation of Laboratory Safety Environment Manager may be excluded. The following is about the designation of a Laboratory Safety Environment Manager representative. In accordance with Article 10 of the Laboratory Safety Act, if the Laboratory Safety and Environment Manager is temporarily unable to perform their duties due to travel diseases, etc., a representative must be designated. The Laboratory Safety and Environment Manager's representative can be designated up to 30 days, but maternity leave is permitted up to 90 days. The qualification requirements for the Laboratory Safety Environment Manager's representative are as follows. First, a person who has acquired the National Technical Qualification in the field of safety management pursuant to the National Technical Qualification Act. Second, a person who meets any of the items of Qualification Standard Number 6 for Safety and Environment Managers. Third, a person who has at least 1 year of practical experience in laboratory safety management work. Fourth, a person in the position of directing and supervising the Laboratory Safety Environment Manager in laboratory safety management work. If not specified, a fine of up to 5 million won will be imposed. The following are matters concerning the composition and operation of the Safety Management Committee. According to Article 11 of the Laboratory Safety Act, the head of the research department is to discuss major issues related to the laboratory safety environment. The Laboratory Safety Management Committee must be organized and operated. With consultation, preparation or change of safety management regulations, safety inspection and establishment of precise safety diagnosis plans. The revised contents include deliberation of safety management plan, accounting of safety-related budget, and establishment of execution plan. In addition, major issues related to the improvement of the laboratory safety environment are also included in the consultation. The components of the Laboratory Safety Management Committee: 1 chairperson and Laboratory Safety Environment Manager. More than half of the committee composition lab managers and researchers, including others designated by the head of the research department, and it must be up to 15 people. Looking at the exclusion clause. When organizing and operating the Industrial Safety and Health Committee pursuant to Article 24 of the Industrial Safety and Health Act, the Laboratory Safety Management Committee is considered formed and operating. However, when the Occupational Safety and Health Committee is formed, it can be operated, including the major consultations related to the safety of the laboratory above. Preparation and compliance of safety management regulations. This time, it is the safety management regulations and compliance items according to Article 12 of the Laboratory Safety Act. The head of the research department is responsible for maintaining the safety of the laboratory by writing safety management regulations, posting them, or placing them in each lab, and notifying the research workers. There are a total of 11 items to be written. Safety Management Organization System and matters related to its duties. Matters concerning the authority and responsibilities of the Laboratory Safety Environment Manager, the Laboratory Director, and the designation of the Laboratory Safety Manager. Matters concerning the implementation of periodic safety training, and the matter of installation or attachment of laboratory safety signs, and matters related to emergency countermeasures and actions in case of a laboratory accident or a serious laboratory accident. Matters related to accident investigation and follow-up measures. Matters concerning the calculation and use of laboratory safety management expenses, and safety management by laboratory type. Other safety management concerns. As an exclusion clause, when writing safety and health management regulations in accordance with the Industrial Safety and Health Act, it is assumed that the laboratory safety management regulations have been prepared. If the regulations are not completed or comply with the regulations, a fine of up to 5 million won may be imposed. Now, let's take a look at conducting the safety inspection. In accordance with Article 14 of the Laboratory Safety Act, the head of the research department must conduct a safety check in the relevant research laboratory to maintain the function and safety of the laboratory. Safety inspection includes daily inspection, periodic inspection, and special inspection. First, the daily inspection. For all labs, is once a day before R&D activities. This is a visual inspection of the storage status of machinery, instruments, electricity, medicines, pathogens, etc., used in R&D activities, and the management status of protective equipment. The daily inspection is carried out by a research activity worker, and the document retention is 1 year. Exceptions. Low-risk laboratories may be conducted at least once a week, and laboratories applying the LMO method and infectious disease prevention method are exempt from routine inspection. Next, regular inspection. For all labs, is at least once a year. This is a regular investigation conducted to find risk factors inherent in the laboratory through inspection using safety inspection devices, and then appropriate measures are taken. Regular inspections are carried out by qualification holders within the institution or by the registration agency of the Ministry of Science and ICT, and the document retention is 3 years after implementation. Exceptions. Low-risk laboratories, excellent laboratories, and laboratories that apply the LMO method and infectious disease prevention method are exempt from regular inspection. Next is special inspection. For all labs, if necessary, this is an inspection conducted when there is the possibility of causing a fatal risk to the safety of research workers, such as explosion or fire accident. The special safety inspection is carried out by the qualification holder in the institution or by the registration agency of the Ministry of Science, Information, Communication and Technology, and the document retention is 3 years. The implementation of the precise safety diagnosis. In accordance with Article 15 of the Laboratory Safety Act, is for laboratories that require hazardous work, handling hazardous substances, or have hazardous facilities and equipment. It is necessary to regularly conduct precise safety diagnosis at least once every 2 years. According to Article 9 of the Enforcement Decree, the target laboratories are the laboratory handling hazardous chemicals under the Chemical Substances Management Act, the laboratory handling harmful factors in accordance with the Industrial Safety and Health Act, and the laboratory handling toxic gases according to the High Pressure Gas Safety Management Act. Since the revision of the law in 2017, checks should be made based on the regular checklist, and if necessary, do an assessment of exposure to harmful factors and the handling and managing hazards. It is also necessary to diagnose matters related to the hazard analysis in advance. The implementation method is, it can be carried out by the institution's qualification holder or entrusted to an agency registered with the Ministry of Science, Information, Communication and Technology. For reference, according to Article 47 of the Occupational Safety and Health Act, it can be excluded when conducting a safety and health examination. The laboratory safety environment can be divided into 5 levels. Of these, Grade 4 refers to a condition in which the use of the laboratory is restricted due to severe defects in the safety environment or research facility. Level 5 is a state in which use is prohibited immediately, and improvement is needed immediately due to the high risk of safety accidents due to the discovery of serious defects in the safety environment of the laboratory or research facility. In the event of a defect of level 4 or higher, it must be reported to the Ministry of Science and ICT within 7 days. Next, let's take a look at laboratory safety education. Education for research workers is divided into new education and regular training. New education refers to the education that all workers employed in the lab must receive within 6 months after hiring. at least 8 hours in the laboratory for precise safety diagnosis. Research labs not subject to precise safety examinations must be complete at least 4 hours. In the case of college students, students must receive at least 2 hours regardless of which laboratory is subject to precise safety examination. Next is regular training for research workers. Laboratory workers in labs subject to precise safety diagnosis must receive at least 6 hours training per half year, at least 3 hours per year in the low-risk laboratory, and other labs must complete at least 3 hours of training each half year. For reference, those who have completed new education and training may be exempted from regular education and training for the corresponding half year. Exclusions. When training under other laws, such as the Industrial Safety and Health Act, High Pressure Gas Safety Management Act, and Liquefied Petroleum Gas Act. If education and training are not carried out, a penalty of up to 10 million won is imposed. Health checkups. The head of the research department is concerned with research workers who are at risk of exposure to dangerous substances and viruses that are fatal to the human body. There are general health checkups and special health checkups. General health checkups. The subject of implementation is the research activity worker handling hazardous substances and factors pursuant to Article 87 of the Enforcement Decree of the Occupational Safety and Health Act and Annex 22 of the Enforcement Rule of the Occupational Safety and Health Act. The implementation cycle is at least once per year. There are examination institutions according to the National Health Insurance Act and special health examination institutions according to the Occupational Safety and Health Act. For the contents of the examination, include the interview and consultation, blood pressure, and blood and urine tests. Special health checkups. The implementation target is the research activity workers handling harmful factors pursuant to attached Table 22 of the Enforcement Regulations of the Industrial Safety and Health Act. In accordance with the Occupational Safety and Health Act, the timing and period of special health examination must be applied mutatis mutandis. There are special health examination institutions according to the Occupational Safety and Health Act. The contents of the examination are stipulated in the first inspection items, etc., in attached Table 24 of the Enforcement Regulations of the Occupational Safety and Health Act, including the general health checkup. Temporary health checkups and a change of research site should be taken, if necessary, to protect the health of research workers. As an exclusion from this, research workers who perform temporary or short-time work are excluded from special health checkups. Also excluded when applying health checkups pursuant to Article 43 of the Industrial Safety and Health Act or Article 91 of the Nuclear Safety Act. Secure laboratory safety and maintenance costs. According to Article 22 of the Laboratory Safety Act, universities, research institutes, etc., are required to secure expenses necessary for the safety and maintenance of their laboratory every year. Type of safety management expenses. Safety management expenses secured from the institution's own budget, and safety management fees secured from research funding. As a standard for reflecting the budget for safety management expenses secured from research, for universities or research institutes, it is around 1% or more and less than 2% of the total labor cost for the research project as the safety-related budget. In the case of corporate-affiliated or civil law, less than 2% of the total labor cost for the research project is reflected as a safety-related budget. Items to be accounted for include providing information on safety management and education and training expenses for research workers. With accident reporting, the head of the research department must report and make a public announcement to the Ministry of Science, Information, Communication and Technology in case of an accident in the laboratory. A major accident in the laboratory should be reported immediately. Accidents in which one or more injured persons falling under Class 1 to Class 9 have died or are disabled must be reported to the Ministry of Science, Information, Communication and Technology, as well as accidents in which 2 or more injured persons injured in the same incident require medical treatment for 3 months or more. Also, accidents in which 5 or more people are injured or become ill in the same incident and require hospitalization for 3 days or more. Major laboratory accidents include accidents due to serious defects in the laboratory. In the event of a laboratory accident in which a research worker has suffered damage to life or body that requires treatment for more than 3 days at a medical institution, within 1 month from that date, a laboratory accident investigation form must be filled out, and it must be submitted to the Ministry of Science, Information, Communication and Technology. Reported matters include an overview of accident occurrence, damage situation, accident action and prospect, and other important matters. Insurer insurance. According to Article 26 of the Laboratory Safety Act, the head of research must subscribe to insurance that meets the standards of the Laboratory Safety Act, in which research workers are the insured and beneficiaries. Exclusions. In accordance with Article 15 of the Enforcement Decree of the Laboratory Safety Act, if you subscribe to insurance under other laws, such as the Industrial Accident Compensation Insurance Act, the Public Officials Pension Act, and the Private School Teachers Pension Act, you are not eligible for insurance. With nursing care, if you have paid medical expenses, you will be paid, and advance payment is possible in case of emergency. Corrective order. According to the law amendment in June 2020, the Ministry of Science, Information, Communication and Technology, for minor or unintentional violations of the law, a corrective order can be issued for a certain period before imposition of a fine. One is subject to the correction order in the case of failing to submit necessary data related to the establishment of the Laboratory Safety Information System, or submitting falsely, and if the Laboratory Safety Management Committee is not configured and operated. Also, when safety inspection or precise safety diagnosis work, education and training for research workers, and health checkups are not conducted in good faith, or when there is a violation of Article 25. This is when necessary measures for safety measures have not been taken, are insufficient, or additional measures are necessary. Failure to submit the documents necessary for the inspection pursuant to Article 31, or if there is a risk of causing danger to researchers or the public as a result of the inspection, results in a corrective order. For reference, the person receiving the corrective order must take corrective action within the period and report it to the Ministry of Science, Information, Communication and Technology. Laboratory Safety Management. According to the Lab Safety Act, Articles 34 through 38. As the Laboratory Safety Manager Qualification System was newly established in June 2020 and is scheduled to be implemented in June 2022, the Minister of Information and Communication of the Ministry of Science and Technology must issue a certificate to those who pass the Laboratory Safety Manager Qualification exam. Laboratory Safety Management Overview is a national professional qualification established to train professionals in the field of laboratory safety management, which requires comprehensive safety management capabilities in various areas, unlike other safety areas such as electricity and gas. In order to perform the duties of laboratory safety management, you must complete the training conducted by the Ministry of Science, Information, Communication and Technology. This includes safety inspection, precise safety diagnosis, and management of research facility equipment materials, etc. Handling management and technical guidance advice on hazards in the laboratory, laboratory safety management and laboratory environmental improvement guidance, laboratory incident response and post-management guidance, other lab safety precautions, and matters that are designated by the Presidential Decree as matters of laboratory safety. Next is the penalty. According to Article 46 of the Laboratory Safety Act, those who fail to carry out detailed safety examinations and do not faithfully perform them, or those who do not subscribe to insurance, face penalties of up to 20 million won. According to Article 46, those who have not conducted safety checks and did not conduct them faithfully, those who have not conducted education and training for research workers, and those who have not conducted health checkups face penalties of up to 10 million won. Finally, in accordance with Article 46, the following cases impose a penalty of up to 5 million won. First, if a person in charge, such as the laboratory director, laboratory safety and environment manager, and laboratory safety and environment manager's representative is not designated. Next, a person who has not prepared safety management regulations or has not sincerely observed the results of safety inspection and detailed safety diagnosis, or has failed to report or falsely report the results of safety inspection and detailed safety diagnosis. Cases in which inspection and diagnosis of agencies not registered with the Ministry of Science, Information, Communication and Technology and specialized training for laboratory safety environment managers has not been completed. In relation to the budget, when the institution's own safety budget has not been allocated or executed, when the safety budget has not been allocated when the research fund is set for research projects, and when those who have used the safety budget do so for other purposes. In the case of an accident investigation, a person who submits data, refuses to obstruct or avoids an investigation, and violates a corrective order are included. Others include non-reported laboratory accidents or false reports, a person who avoids submitting data or refusing or interfering with the investigation during a laboratory accident investigation, and those who refuse or obstruct the investigation and violate corrective orders.
연구실 안전법, 우리 정말 잘 기억하고 있어야 할 것 같아. 무엇이 있었지? 연구자 보호 강화, 대신 연구 현장 규제는 완화.
라인 맞추기, 연구실 안전관리 체계 강화.
저는 라인 못 맞춰요. 그냥 아까부터 관심 갖고 있던 연구실 안전관리사 신설.
그런데 주목할 게 있어. 연구실의 안전에 가장 큰 영향을 미치는 상위 관리자의 안전의식을 높이도록 규정을 만들었다는 거야.
그렇죠. 중요하죠.
상위 관리자도 중요하지만 우리 연구원에게도 연구실 안전법은 중요하다. 이것이 결론이로다.
Based on what you have learned from this session, you will take a brief quiz. Please read the question and choose the correct answer.
Enactment background. Prior to the enactment of the Laboratory Safety Act, the compensation system was insufficient in case of continuous serious accidents and accidents in the lab of university students and graduate students. History. Accordingly, the Laboratory Safety Act was revised based on the paradigm shift from state-led laboratory safety management to institutional autonomous laboratory safety management. Purpose. The Laboratory Safety Act ensures efficient management of research resources and revitalization of science and technology research and development by securing the safety of science and technology laboratories installed in universities and research institutes, and it offers appropriate laws for compensation for damage caused by accidents. Coverage. This applies to labs set up to perform R&D activities. Designation and operation of laboratory director. The head of research must designate a laboratory director in each laboratory as prescribed by presidential decree. Implementation of safety checks. In addition, the head of research must conduct a safety inspection to maintain the function and safety of the laboratory. The types of safety inspection include the daily inspection, regular inspection, and special safety inspection. Implementation of precise safety checks. Laboratories that require hazardous or dangerous work handling hazardous materials, facilities, and equipment must regularly conduct precise safety checkups at least once every 2 years. Education and training. Training for research workers is divided into new and regular training. Health checkups. And research workers who are at risk of exposure to dangerous substances and viruses that are fatal to the human body must undergo a general health checkup or special health checkup. Securing laboratory safety and maintenance costs. There are safety management expenses secured from the institution's own budget and safety management expenses secured from research funds. Accident report. The head of the research department must report to the Ministry of Science, Information, Communication and Technology and Future Planning in the event of an accident in the laboratory. Insurance. The head of the research department must subscribe to insurance that meets the standards of the Laboratory Safety Act, in which research workers are insured and beneficiaries. Laboratory Safety Management Qualification System. This was established in June 2020 to nurture experts in the field of laboratory safety management and is scheduled to be implemented in June 2022.